Wouldn't it be great to manage your portfolio on one platform? Well, now you can trade all in one place on Robinhood. That means you can trade individual stocks and ETFs and also buy and sell crypto using seriously powerful and intuitive tools at one of the lowest costs on average without needing to manage multiple apps. Robinhood makes withdrawing and depositing crypto seamless. Send crypto to your Robinhood account or send crypto from your Robinhood account to other wallets without deposit or withdrawal fees from Robinhood. Trade all in one place. Get started now on Robinhood. Trading crypto involves significant risk. Crypto trading is offered through an account with Robinhood Crypto LLC. Robinhood Crypto is licensed to engage in virtual currency business activity by the New York State Department of Financial Services. Crypto held through Robinhood Crypto is not FDIC insured or SIPC protected. Network fees may apply to crypto transfers. Crypto transfers may not be available to all customers. Investing involves risk, including loss of principal. Securities trading is offered through an account with Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, a registered broker-dealer.
With a major selection of the looks your kiddos love starting at just $4 in the Walmart app, a new school year means a stylish new them. Who knew? Find skater skirts and Crocs that say, I'm casual but cool. Sparkly sneakers that say, it's my classroom, you're just learning in it. And preppy polos that say, I'm the teacher's pet, even if they're mommy's menace at home. Find their favorite styles starting at just $4 in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new.
Love espresso, drip coffee, and cold brew? With the Ninja Luxe Cafe, if you can crave it, you can brew it. Espresso, balanced. Drip coffee, rich. Cold brew in a flash. With Barista Assist technology, you brew with no stress and no guesswork and make perfect silky microfoam hands-free from dairy or plant-based milks. Shop the Ninja Luxe Cafe at ninjakitchen.com.
Hello and welcome to The Price of Football, the show that looks at the money behind the beautiful game with me, Kevin Day, and Liverpool University's Kieran Maguire. You're going to run out of ways soon, Kieran.
I know, yes.
You've got the energy. I watched a documentary the other night about children's TV in the 60s, and you would have been a perfect children's TV presenter. You would have been fantastic on Play School. I could just see you throwing little Ted through the oval window, or whatever they used to go on in those things.
I was never a little Ted fan.
Let's not get into that. I was only ever allowed to watch BBC for Blue Peter. My mum thought Blue Peter might be educational. Didn't like me watching Magpie because
no.
girls didn't wear bras under their t-shirts, which is exactly why 9-year-old. What was he? You're as chipper. I can tell you're chipper, Kieran, because we're actually recording this questions pod the minutes after we recorded last week's one, because for logistical reasons we're having to put a couple of recordings together. We'll still be doing our news shows live, but our questions pods for the next 1 week will be all recorded in a bunch. So if it so happens that in the next 10 minutes the Man City case is resolved, we won't be mentioning it until Thursday, basically. Was that Finley growling underneath?
Yeah, he's taken to just sort of sighing loudly.
Yeah, he's a terrible critic. It's very disconcerting. It's like when you're doing a gig and everyone's laughing. There's that one person in the front row who just huffs a little bit, and that's what he did that all the way through the last record. Every now and again, he just huffed a little bit.
Yeah. I'm exactly the same. When I teach a course, and you get all of the student comments at the end of it, the feedback, and there'll be one who said, "Don't know why he does this."
Yeah,
I'll agonise.
Yeah, well,
take it personally.
Well, so you should, but you've got to mark his exams. So,
Yes.
he hasn't thought that through, or she, or they haven't thought that through, have they? Really? You do sometimes wonder, though. I will just stop a gig and say to mate, if you want to go, by all means, feel free to go. And then they always go, and then they laugh too much. The rest of it. At Questions Day, Kieran, as we ascertained, Max Underwood has our first question. And as it happens, this is a question that was discussed with Neil Doncaster, the head of Scottish football, in our interview with him just a couple of weeks ago. But I'm Perfectly happy to ask this, because it gives us a chance to elaborate on what Neil had to say, because we had so many questions to ask Neil. We couldn't go into any great detail about any of them. But Max Underwood says, call me stupid. We don't use that word, Max. Call me stupid, but opening up the SPL to 18, 20 teams would surely increase wealth distribution and improve the standard by having more teams playing top-level football. I've heard the arguments for keeping the system how it is, but it makes no sense and serves the few. You see, other countries of similar population do well in European competition, but Celtic and Rangers and the national team increasingly fail to qualify beyond the group stages. Making Scottish football more competitive is the only way to do this, not creating a mini elite. Am I wrong? Well, it depends. Obviously, you want to make Scottish football more competitive. I thought you'd be pleased when I said it depends.
I'm very impressed.
Of course, you want to make Scottish football more competitive, but there are different arguments about the way to do that. And as Neil Doncaster points out, first of all, you have to get the clubs to agree. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Under the present system, the clubs do play each other twice a year, and then they go into those sort of mini leagues. We have, of course, spoken to the secret Neil Doncaster about this particular topic, and there is, Max's view is that it will increase wealth distribution. Yes, it would. There's an alternative view, which I guess is where Max is taking issue here, is that it will dilute the wealth into too many areas. Let's be perfectly honest. When Celtic and Rangers come to town, that's your biggest payday of the year. So should that be should we give 17 clubs or 19 clubs the opportunity to do that, or should we keep it to the current position? The view which has been taken by the clubs, and there's an element of self-interest here, is that they want a smaller Scottish Premiership. Neil pointed out is that if you take a look at countries of a similar size to Scotland, they tend to have the 10, 12, 14 leagues. And it's actually the likes of the Premier League who are an outlier with 20 teams. But you can do that. England's got a population of 50 million. Scotland's got a population of 5 million. So it does look at the concentration. As far as the impact upon the national team is concerned, I'm not being rude to Scottish football here, but when was the last Scottish player from Arbroath who got into the national team? If they are good, and I know the wages which are paid at sort of at each level, each tier of Scottish football. If you're good, you will be snaffled up by, even if it's by Celtic or Rangers, you'll still go to perhaps one of the Edinburgh clubs or Aberdeen, Dundee United perhaps. But even at clubs, I would say, are sort of the level of perhaps St Johnson and Kilmarnock, there's relatively few players on more than £1,000 a week, and if it is, it's going to be marginally more than that. So there are arguments both for and against. As far as Celtic and Rangers participation is concerned, Rangers did pretty well last year in Europe. Celtic managed to get through the group stages, so they do not see their competitors as Stirling Albion, Arbroath, Ayr United. They see their rivals as Roma, Standard Liège, Anderlecht, Feyenoord, and so on. So that there is this issue, and it's exactly the same in the Premier League, by the way. The opposite argument is that the big clubs, the likes of Manchester United, Liverpool, and Chelsea, they want a smaller Premier League because they don't see their rivals as Crystal Palace and Brighton. They see their rivals as Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, PSG, and so on, Barcelona. So, yes, there is a mini elite, but that mini elite would not change if we went to 18 to 20 clubs. I still think you would find you'd have sort of 2 or 3 tiers You've got the two Glasgow clubs which are dominant. You've then got a chasing pack for third, and then you've got the clubs which are trying to avoid being relegated.
Well, as Neil pointed out, two things in the smaller countries geographically, in Scandinavia, Switzerland, Serbia, so on, not only have 10, 12 teams in their top league, but are dominated by the same two teams, if not the same one team. If you look at English football with 20 teams in the ring, when we're having the endless discussions on Sky and Talk Sport about who's going to win, it's one of three clubs, essentially. Everyone will be, it'll be Man City, Liverpool, and or Arsenal, Chelsea.
Yeah.
Even the likes of Man United, nobody expects Man United to win the title for the foreseeable. Everton have got a lovely stadium. No, Palace are not going to win the title. Brighton are not. So it's the same in Germany. It's Bayern Munich plus maybe one other.
Yeah.
In France, it's PSG plus maybe one other. And the problem is, I think Max Underwood is absolutely right. You need to look at ways of making these leagues more competitive. But this was a discussion that we should have been having 120 years ago.
Yes.
When the leagues were started. Because unfortunately, whatever league system you have, those minorities are in place. They're fixed. They're nailed to the wall. You're not prizing them away.
Yep.
You can change the league system as much as you like. Hibs aren't going to win the Scottish League. They might win the Scottish Cup as Aberdeen did, but only one or two teams is going to win the Scottish League. But that's the same across the world, I'm afraid. Adam Berg has our next question. And this is one historically that applied to Palace as well. But Adam Berg said, last year, West Ham were willing to pay Lille's £30 million asking price for Jonathan David, but pulled out because of the agent's fee of £10 million. With that in mind, I have some questions regarding agents' fees. And again, this is a question we come back to quite often, Kieran. I'm happy to answer it every now and again for new listeners and to remind older listeners, because agents are so unpopular. But why is the agent entitled to such a ridiculous sum, says Adam? How does the agent have his fee contracted? Would that have been an agreement purely between him and the player, or was it part of David's contract with Lille? What prevents the clubs from cutting the agent out of the deal altogether? Could David fire his agent, or is the agent's fee baked in to any sell-on fee? Is there a point at which the agent's commission expires? Like if David runs out of his contract, any discussion of this on the pod would be appreciated. We had a similar situation at Palace when the Permatan, the idiot, was in charge.
Tim Cahill, wasn't it?
It was Tim Cahill, yeah. And Tim Cahill, the deal was signed, but then Tim Cahill's agent asked for an extra 5% on top. Simon Jordan, in an act that we all admired at the time, said no, the deal fell through. And arguably because of that deal falling through, we went down. So morally, Jordan was, I hate to say this, morally, Jordan was on the side of the Angels then. But football business doesn't work morally, does it, unfortunately?
No. I'm gonna contact some of our secret agents. In fact, I'm going to contact one of our non-secret agents. That makes more sense. And I think we'll try to get them on the show, and perhaps we'll have an Ask the Agent edition.
That's a good idea.
Of Price of Football, because I think there's an awful lot of myths around. And I would recommend the book, The Secret Agent. I don't know who the author is.
Really?
By the definition, yeah. I don't know why. Well, I think I do actually know, but we can't say who it is. But there is no. It's a bit like The Secret Footballer.
Yeah.
So,
well, did you wink at me then, Kieran?
I think I did.
You said okay, all right.
We're both friends with The Secret Footballer.
Yeah, indeed.
We think.
We think, yeah. Yeah, he's a bit cagey about it. But anyway, yeah.
That's right. So as far as the agent is concerned, the agent isn't entitled to a fee. The agent will suggest a fee, and it's up for the club to agree. As far as players are concerned, could they fire the agent? Well, normally they will have an agency agreement for its fixed period of time. Quite often that will expire. So I think we've currently got the case of Trossard's just been given a strange new contract by Arsenal, in which normally when there's a renegotiation on a contract, the club gets protection because the contract is extended and therefore the value of the player is preserved because it reduces. You know from your own experience at Palace that as you get into the final year of the contract, there's a tapering down of the player's market value because, as we saw with Trent Alexander-Arnold, that they can walk away at the end of it. But yeah, I think Trossard changed his agent over the course of the summer, and Arsenal have now said we're going to give you a pay rise, but not a contract extension, which is very much not the norm as far as relationships are concerned. But they want him to feel closer to the other players in the dressing room, perhaps as a result of this. So the agent negotiates a fee with the club, and I've got to be honest. When I talk to players, and as you know, I work for the PFA Business School, I don't hear complaints from players to agent. You work in the entertainment industry. You've got an agent. Many of your colleagues in all of those broader areas of the world of entertainment, they will have agents. And yeah, do you want to give away whatever X percent is? No, nobody wants to do that. But when I sold my house, I didn't sell it myself. I've got an agent to do it, and you assume that they have the contacts, they have the networks, they have the ability to negotiate. And as far as players are concerned, I spoke to one or two players. I don't know what my market value is necessarily. I'm certainly not capable if I'm moving to a big six club of doing an image rights deal on my own behalf. So I delegate that responsibility to the agent because do you know what, Kieran? I just want to play football.
Yeah.
And outsourcing, and that's what you're doing with an agent. You're outsourcing the stuff that you don't want to do. Why do people get accountants to do their tax returns? It's because they don't want to do it themselves, and they'd rather give it to somebody with professional expertise who specialises in that area. That's why the agents exist. So I do think that agents have become the pantomime villain of football, along with various other issues that come up. And everyone, yes, they're taking money out of the game. But I always go back to the discussion that I had with the chief executive of a Premier League football club when I was writing the first edition of the book. And I said, agents, they're the villains of the piece. He said, well, we don't think so. As a club, we had a player who come through the academy. We made him an offer, accepted it. And then the player started to pick up, but was in the first team, started to pick up from a few other lads. Yeah, they're doing. How do they have? So we're working out that he was actually the poorest paid player in the dressing room, and yet he was the first team starter. If you are 19 or 20 years old, and I'm not being critical of professional footballers here, they're not necessarily financially literate in the sense of knowing the details of. And I didn't know that when I was 19 or 20. I didn't know that the implications for if this goes into image rights, this goes into your pension, this goes this that. But they felt that they were getting a hard deal. So what do? They go have a word with their agent. They go, I'm a bit cheesed off, mate. I'm on 10 grand less than everybody else in the dressing room. So what the agent does is the agent looks after the interests of the client. The agent phones up the chief executive and says, look, I'm not saying he's unhappy, but he's not happy. And football is an industry where the environment, your self-worth, you're not on a production line doing things. It's a spontaneous sport, as we know. And we always talk about these things like marginal gains and so on. So the chief executive phoned me and said, look, he was on less. It wasn't deliberate on our behalf, but we're doing 101 different things every day. We took our eye off the ball. We got a phone call from the agent. I spoke to the club owner. The club owner says, we want this player to stay. Called him in, gave him a pay rise, stuck 2 years on the end of his contract, which means we've got protection. Because if the player does go, we can now get full market value. The player's happy, we're happy, the fans are happy because it's an academy player, we've always spoken about that. Fans like the idea of local lads being in the team. tell me what the downside is. Because the agent who has managed to make that phone call, whereas if I'm 19 or 20, going into the office of a 40, 50, 60-year-old chief executive, he or she has been in the football, is quite an intimidating experience at that age. So the agent does that, acts on behalf of the clients. And I can honestly say there are some fantastic agents out there and there are some crap ones. And that is the same for every single profession I know.
Yeah. Your image rights, Kieran, when you were 18, 20, they would have been worth a bit, wouldn't they? You were a cool looking dude. I mean, you're a cool looking dude now, but when you were 18, 20, you're a handsome piece of work. Your image rights would have been very valuable, I would say, wouldn't they?
When I was 18 years old, now I'm 6'3", I weighed 10 stone 4.
Holy fuck! Really?
Yeah, I wasn't allowed out. It was more than a force 4 wind. My mum would give me a note. Can't come in today. You might get blown over.
Did you have to? That was my mum's word. Did you have to walk around in the shower to get wet?
Yes. Yeah.
If you've shopped online, chances are you've bought from a business powered by Shopify. You know that purple Shop Pay button you see at checkout? The one that makes buying so incredibly easy? That's Shopify. And there's a reason so many businesses sell with it, because Shopify makes it incredibly easy to start and run your business. Shopify is the commerce platform behind 10% of all e-commerce in the US. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/promo. Go to shopify.com/promo.
This episode is sponsored by Babbel. Remember those school days when learning a second language felt more like a chore than a joy? All I remember is that Monsieur Thibault est un ingénieur. Never used that sentence whatsoever when I've been in France. Fortunately, Babbel has revolutionised language learning into an enjoyable and engaging experience. Whether you're planning a trip abroad, looking to connect more deeply with family, want to advance in your career, or simply have some extra time, Babbel offers bite-sized lessons that are practical and useful in real-life situations. I want to learn Italian so I can have a proper argument about football with the waiters in my favourite restaurant.
Babbel enriches learning with cultural insights, broaden learners' perspectives beyond just language, making it the perfect travel companion. On top of that, Babbel offers affordable and flexible learning options, allows users to practice anytime, anywhere. I really could have found Babbel incredibly useful when I went to Peru and got lost. All I could say was Manchester United, Nobby Styles, England. Babbel really would have come in useful there.
Right now, Babbel is offering our listeners up to 60% off their subscription. Go to babbel.com/price of football to claim your discount. That's BABBEL.com/price of football for up to 60% off. Valid for a limited time only. Babbel, language learning that works. Adam's only reflecting what I would say 90% of football fans
I absolutely get that.
They have become a sort of touchstone for the anger of football fans. I think the important line there is, what prevents the clubs from cutting the agent out of the deal altogether? You've just answered, the player.
Yeah,
is what prevents the clubs from cutting it. And I think what people need to know as well about the relationship between most players and their agent, people have it in their head that all agents are kind of like a Svengali figure that's always there in the background, that turns up at training, that is on the phone to them. For the most part, a player won't speak to his agent more than once every 4 weeks, and that'll be a courtesy call. Because unless there's something, it's the same with my industry. It's like you talk to your agent when there's a potential job offer coming, when there's a potential job offer going, when you're trying to get something. Otherwise, you might phone up every couple of weeks, say, everything all right? How are you getting on? But there's no daily contact. And it's the same with even at the highest level. Harry Kane won't be talking to his agent every half hour. Harry Kane might occasionally go, hang on, I've just seen a big poster of me in a German underground station. I didn't know anything about this. But other than that, it's a very professional relationship. And don't forget, the agent could have 100 players on his books that he's looking after. So I think that's a good idea, actually, getting an agent on to which we've done before. But I think I think there's plenty of things to talk about. And also that means, like when we get Neil Doncaster on, me and you can have a bit of a rest because we can just. we also got that. It's because I didn't ask it. Terry from Bradford asked it, basically. Our next question comes from Helen Schmiedemann. And the reason I know it's called Helen Schmiedemann is because Helen has very kindly given me a pronunciation with about 8 E's.
Yes.
Those
are the days, Kevin.
Not 8. Yeah. I think we could. It was the God rest Linda Smith, one of the finest comedians this country ever had. She wouldn't appreciate me saying God rest her soul because she was a tub-thumping atheist. But I remember one particular occasion. I only have dabbled, I would say, but she said, it's probably not for you. So I said, why? She said, because I could see your eyeballs come round the corner a minute before you did. She said, it was like like Wile E. Coyote seeing something he couldn't believe. But Helen Schmiedemann says, when teams like Manchester United and Wrexham play pre-season friendlies in the US, is the gate money split between the teams? Is there TV revenue? Are merchandise sales an important part of revenue out there? And do teams make money directly from friendly matches played abroad, or do they only get indirect value by attracting more fans and sponsorships? Interesting question.
Yes. To which the answer is, Helen, it depends. And the reason why I say that is that if you are a global brand, and I would include both Manchester United and Wrexham in this, by the way.
Yeah.
Because of the success of the show. What will happen is that they will be getting the phone calls. So I always say, in these situations, who's making the phone call? If it's the club who says, well, yeah, we want to get a bit of warm weather, we want to do a bit of bonding, go overseas. So the club is going, you're phoning up somebody in Austria or Portugal or wherever it's going to be. Then you might get a few quid out of it. But if you are Manchester United, and remember there was all this kerfuffle at the end of last season, that 48 hours after the end of the Premier League season, Manchester United and Spurs played a friendly in Asia.
Yeah.
They will have received a sum of money, but they won't have got a share of the gate receipts. They will have negotiated a fee with a promoter. So it's, again, there are similarities with the world of entertainment. Somebody might be given a gig where you say, well, you can sell your own tickets, and you take the risk, or promoter will phone you and say, I'll give you $5,000 for this. And the promoter tries then to make all of the margins work for them. So it does very much depend, but I think there would have been a fixed fee for Manchester United and Spurs for those pre-season friendlies, post-season friendlies. As far as TV is concerned, Manchester United have their own TV channel, so therefore they might have been able to negotiate the rights for MUTV, sort of domestically. That might have been sold locally as well by the promoter. As far as merchandise sales are concerned, it depends on the club. I went to see Brighton play in the United States 2 years ago, 3 years ago, for the Premier League Summer Series. And we were playing against Chelsea. Chelsea was selling merchandise, Brighton weren't. Why? Because nobody's heard of Brighton in the United States. So why go to the aggravation? Yeah, you might sell 100 shirts. Well, you've got to bring 3 members of staff across. You've got to bring the merchandise across. By the time you factor in all of your costs, then you do your sums, you budget, you go, it's not actually worth our while. So it does vary from club to club. And if you take a look at the commercial revenues of the clubs in the Premier League, it is very much a 2-tier industry in the sense that those clubs that are brands in their own right will be able to benefit significantly financially from these tours, whereas the other clubs, I'm not saying they're doing it for the love of football, but they're doing it for non-financial reasons.
Mm. So you went all the way to America. You couldn't even get a giant foam finger.
Well, it depends what.
No. I mean, Tottenham. It makes perfect sense for Tottenham to tour Southeast Asia,
Yes,
every year because that's where their main sponsor operates. It makes perfect sense for the main sponsor to sell tickets through the website, and you have to give information about your data to get a ticket because then the insurance company are finding out about stuff. There are parallels in my industry. In the old days, if you wanted to play the London Palladium, you had to be very, very famous or very good and be invited. Now, it's what they call a dry hire. In other words, if the price of football wanted to pay 30, 40, 50 grand, we could just get the Palladium for a night for that much money. And you would get 10 staff, two techies and whatever. And then they don't care whether you sell out or not.
Yeah.
Because they've made the money. I mean, it would be a risky move on our part to try and fill the Palladium, but many people do, and if it pays off handsomely.
Exactly.
You know.
Yes.
Our next question comes from Morton Anderson Gott. Speaking of Spurs, Morton Anderson Gott says, "How does selling off a minority stake in a club help a club's transfer budget? Tottenham's Daniel Levy said last year they were looking for a minority owner to help boost the club's equity. But why would a minority owner inject cash into a club, increasing its value, while the majority owner does nothing?" And it's an interesting one. Obviously, parallels with John Textor at Crystal Palace, which may be putting off people buying minority stakes. But I don't know. But it is an interesting question for Morton, Kieran, isn't it?
It does. I think you have to be very careful here, Morton, in the sense that there are...
He's really grumpy today, isn't he?
He is just wandering out the house.
Is it because the kids are there? Is that what it is?
Yes.
Is he hiding?
When we talk about a minority owner coming into a football club, there are two ways of achieving this. First of all, that investor can buy shares from somebody else. So when John Textor sold his shares to Woody Johnson, that was a private transaction, which means that Woody Johnson now owns, 43% of Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace did not benefit financially from that deal. So I own shares in companies. So let's say that I've got 1,000 shares in Manchester United. If I want to sell those because I think that it's at a good share price, I do that. So it's a sale between me and somebody else, and it's a private transaction. There is no financial benefit to the football club whatsoever. However, there's another way in which somebody can come into this. Let's say that you and I, Kevin, we own a company, and somebody comes in and says, I want to invest, and we don't want to sell our shares. What can happen is that Kevin and Kieran Limited can sell shares to that person. And what that will do is that previously, you and I would have had 50% of the company. If we now, which is one share each, if we now issue a share to Producer Guy or Princess Julian, our tour manager, as far as our company is concerned, they would now have bought the share from Price of Football Productions. That money does go into the company. That money can therefore be respent. But what would happen at the same time is that you and I go from owning 50% each to owning only a third of the company. So it dilutes our investment, but it brings money into the company. So I think, and it could be that Daniel Levy's being misquoted, or he's just given an answer to a question and people haven't followed it through. It all depends upon how are those shares being sold. From person A to person B, no impact upon the club. If the club physically issues shares, there is a financial boost. Why would you do that as an existing shareholder? Well, it could be that Daniel Levy wants an extra £500 million in Spurs, doesn't have the money himself. So he said, right, I'm prepared to dilute my investment. The club get extra money. I've now got a smaller slice of a bigger pie. So I've got a third slice of a big pie as opposed to a half slice of a smaller pie. And it could be that if you work it out, the overall, what you end up overall is broadly similar.
It did make me laugh that the brilliant Spurs result against Man City away, which started off with Spurs fans chanting, "We want Levy out," which as each minute went by and they realised that Tottenham were playing quite well, they receded somewhat, those chants. What you say about Woody Johnson there, Kieran, I find very interesting, because in all the discussion with Palace fans about why has he taken it, why has he done this, what are his long-term plans, didn't occur to me for a second that none of that money is going to the club.
Well, no. The recipient is Texter J, which is why his name is now being linked with Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah. Oh, God. Oh, that's a horrifying thought for all concerned. Our last question, Kieran, comes from Barry Davis, which is a name to bring an emotional tear of nostalgia to the eye of
I read that and I just went 1-0.
It's, do you know what?
And Archie Gemmels.
Look at his face. He was a fantastic commentator, and also, I have to say, one of the most decent people you'll ever meet.
Oh, good.
He was absolutely delightful, man. He was really interesting to talk to, very encouraging, very pleasant man, and underrated as a commentator, I think. Probably because it's that classic British thing, he could commentate on a lot of other sports.
Yeah.
Like, where are the Germans? And frankly, who cares in the hockey? But Barry Davis has a question, which is it's a sort of general discussion question. But I think it's a very interesting one. And basically, Barry says, do the profit and sustainability rules encourage or discourage clubs from building and or improving their stadium?
Right, Barry. They very much encourage capital investment in new infrastructure projects. I go back to visiting Bramley Moor Dock, the Hill Dickinson Stadium.
Yeah.
Recently, that cost hundreds of millions of pounds, but your infrastructure costs are excluded from PSR. So let's look at it from the club's point of view. Without using one of these glib financial statements, revenue is vanity, profit is sanity. If we take a look at what's happened at Everton, they've spent money, magnificent new stadium. They got an extra 15,000 seats. If the yield on those seats, the yield is how much cash are we making, is £40 and they pay 25 matches a year, that's a £15 million boost to revenue. You've then got the maintenance costs of the stadium. They may have increased. So you look at it on a net basis. But that extra £15 million of revenue, net of your extra revenue running costs, that goes into your PSR calculation. The depreciation on the stadium, and depreciation is the same as amortization. So if they spent, say, £500 million on the new stadium, they don't say that's an expense in year one. They say, well, it's going to last us for 50 years. So say 500 divided by 50, £10 million cost goes into the accounts. That is excluded from PSR. So therefore, the only extra costs are sort of the cost of cleaning, the costs of sort of the day-to-day maintenance. If Everton managed to get an increase in the yield of £60 per match, that's 23 million pounds. They've then got the benefits of more hospitality rooms. They've got the benefits of multifunction use of the stadium. All of those are benefits. So to give the Premier League, the EFL, UEFA all some credit, they do encourage clubs to invest in their infrastructure, which is potentially good for fans, because if you talk to Spurs fans about moving from White Hart Lane Mark 1 to White Hart Lane Mark 2, as we got at present, they've had to go and pay a lot more for their season tickets, their match day tickets, and so on, for the additional costs. But yes, it does certainly financially benefit the clubs, and it is PSR positive.
Yeah, West Ham fans might have a less optimistic take on that if you were to ask them. It's a side effect, though. The fact that the PSR rules encourage infrastructure build, that was never part of the reason why they were introduced, was it?
It wasn't the reason why they were introduced. I think when they were finessing the rules, they were saying, what do we want clubs to do? What do we want to avoid punishing? They didn't want to avoid punishing clubs for infrastructure. They didn't want to discourage clubs from investing in the women's team, the academy, the community schemes. So therefore, that's why all of those issues are exempt. Yet for people interested, West Ham is a sensitive topic. there's a company that was formed purely to buy West Ham's old stadium. I can't remember its name offhand, but it is on one of my spreadsheets. And this company only existed for 3 years. It bought West Ham Stadium for £40 million, sold it for considerably more than £40 million very, very soon afterwards. And the people involved as the shareholders made an absolute fortune from it.
Did it have Berlin in? Was it Berlin? There was a number involved as well? And don't mind, it's academic. Yeah. If you can't remember, then I probably didn't know.
Eczema isn't always obvious, but it's real. And so is the relief from Ebglyss. After an initial dosing phase, about 4 in 10 people taking Ebglyss achieved itch relief and clear or almost clear skin at 16 weeks. And most of those people maintain skin that's still more clear at 1 year with monthly dosing.
Ebglyss, lebrikizumab LBKZ, a 250 milligram per 2 milliliter injection, is a prescription medicine used to treat adults and children 12 years of age and older who weigh at least 88 pounds or 40 kilograms with moderate to severe eczema, also called atopic dermatitis, that is not well controlled with prescription therapies used on the skin or topicals, or who cannot use topical therapies. Ebglyss can be used with or without topical corticosteroids. Don't use if you're allergic to Ebglyss. Allergic reactions can occur that can be severe. Eye problems can occur. Tell your doctor if you have new or worsening eye problems. You should not receive a live vaccine when treated with Ebglyss. Before starting Ebglyss, tell your doctor if you have a parasitic infection.
Searching for real relief? Ask your doctor about Ebglyss and visit ebglyss.lilly.com or call 1-800-LILY-RX or 1-800-545-5979.
This Labor Day at Lowe's, shop member-only doorbuster deals for a limited time. Save $50 on an Ego string trimmer, now $169. Plus, get 50% off select Holland pavers. Not a rewards member? Sign up for free today. But hurry, Labor Day doorbuster deals won't last long. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 9/1 while supplies last. Program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
Just to clarify for a bear of small brain here, see, how long, in simple terms, can you explain how long the infrastructure benefit lasts for PSR calculations?
Well, it will effectively, the benefit will be there forever because you've got that extra 15,000 seats there forever. If you think about the expansion of Selhurst Park, if you go from 25 to 35,000, you've got that extra 10,000 seats being sold, those extra boxes being sold ad infinitum. So it does carry on throughout the existence of the new infrastructure investment.
But for how long can you offset the actual money you spent on the stadium? If you see what I mean.
Well, the money you spent on the stadium is completely ignored.
Oh, okay, right.
So it's exempt from PSR. So you get the benefit. You get the pluses from the extra seats. You don't get the minuses from the extra depreciation.
Great, that's what I wanted to work out in my head. Thank you, Kieran, and thank you to everyone who's joined the Price of Football Club. If you'd like to join the club too and get every episode a day earlier, I can't. That blinking Club Biscuit advert from the 70s. It's really hard for me to say if you'd like to join. If you'd like a lot of chocolate on your biscuit, join our club. It's very difficult not to sing that. Again, I hope it's chips. I hope it's chips. You get every episode a day earlier than everybody else. You'll get ad-free listening. You'll get an invite to our monthly Q&A sessions where you'll get more waffling about 70s adverts. You'll get bonus waffles. They were waffly versatile, weren't they? Bonus episodes and more, and go to our website, priceoffootball.com. If you have a question you'd like answered on our weekly question show, email us at questions@priceoffootball.com. Don't forget you can follow us on Twitter X. You can find us on YouTube. And if you'd like to buy one of our books or a Price of Football t-shirt, go back to the website, priceoffootball.com. We'll be back next Thursday. Next Thursday sounds like a long way away, but it's only actually 2 days away. We'll be back this Thursday with our usual news pod. In the meantime, I shall hand you over to Mr. Kieran Maguire for his customary farewell.
Well, as always, folks, thank you so much for the constant support. I put up a tweet recently about just how much it cost me to travel by train, and somebody suggested we set up the Price of Trains podcast. I think that's even a bit niche for me, but we'll try and get the transport minister on the show, perhaps, to explain why it'll be a fantastic idea if they introduced a football fan rail card.
Yeah. Julian, our lovely live producer, shared that photograph. Is that the one with all the tickets, all the paper tickets?
Yes.
Yeah. He that went around the Parsons Arms before the Forest game, which led to a load of blokes who can't afford to say, "Well, you just jump on first class." Well, yeah,
the whole aim is to try and get there as cheaply as possible.
I know, it's because we were just counting the number. It's the fact we had paper tickets as well. Everyone's going, this is a function of the institutional mediocrity that we now have in this country, in that the rail companies, the overland, whatever you call it, rail companies, and Transport for London don't get on, so you can no longer get a ticket which will take you from the south to the north. I know, but the upstairs trains, I always call it upstairs, downstairs trains, basically. Because everyone has got such respect and admiration for you, because the first couple of minutes everyone's going, "Oh, what's he like with all these tickets?" And then somebody starts saying, "Well, Kieran, he knows more than we do. Perhaps we should be getting. So perhaps we should be lumping all our money into ticket machines." It's strange how the mind of the football fan works, isn't it, Kieran?
Yes.
Or the mind of the man, basically. Let's put it that way. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
The price of football. The price of football.